You're listening to the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. Now, this episode is about meaning. And what I want to share with you in this episode, and I want to, dig into, is that you're always making something mean something. Meaning whatever happens in your life, whatever that something is, you're making it mean something. And the reality is you go through your life as a meaning-making machine, and many times we make meanings that don't serve us. So if you'd like to explore the fact that you're a meaning-making machine and everything in your life you give meaning to, then keep listening.
Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here.
Okay, so you're a meaning-making machine. What does that mean? Well, plain and simple, it means that. I mean, what does it mean to you that I say you're a meaning-making machine? Basically, you're looking to make meaning of everything in your life. Wherever you are in this world, this could probably apply. What does it mean that Donald Trump didn't get reelected? And then notice that you're putting meanings on that. Well, the election was stolen, and this and that, and the blue states or the red states are becoming more blue states, or it means great things that he wasn't reelected, or it means that the election was stolen, or it means bad things that he wasn't reelected, or whatever. But what I want to point out is that you individually, and it can mean nothing to you, and that means something, but the fact is that I point something out and you make meaning of it. And the big point in this episode is looking at, and we'll dig into it, but looking at all the things that happen in your life and the meanings that you give to those things, and even to the meaning that you have about your own life and what that means. I know it sounds crazy, right? But the brain, our brain needs organization, it needs structure. And the reason why is because it needs to know how to structure thought, which is a survival mechanism. I mean, we have to know how to, many years ago, hunt and gather food. And this day and age, I mean, the brain has to structure, well, how do you go to the store to get groceries or cook your groceries or whatever? But that's one of the things that the brain does, is it structures our reality. And the brain is always looking for meaning, and that it's an energy saving mechanism, meaning anytime we see something, the brain wants to put meaning on it, so it knows how to categorize it. Do we categorize it as something we run from? Do we categorize it as something that we would be attracted to? How does the brain categorize the meaning? So the brain automatically makes meaning. And even research I read on this, where, for example, you look at the Rorschach test, which is the ink blots. The brain is making meaning of these ink blots, and people are seeing different things. Or I read some research about people with brain injuries. And the reality is when part of the brain was injured and it couldn't visualize or imagine in a certain way, the brain would automatically try to fill in the empty blanks where the imagination wasn't, and I can't explain the whole thing here, but the brain was trying to make meaning out of something that it couldn't make meaning out of. So what I want to point out, and then we'll move on, everything in your life has a meaning, but it has the meaning that you make of that meaning. Right now, I'm sitting in my home office, and I literally, as you know, you might have heard me say before, I gutted this house all the way back to the studs, and it was a year-long renovation. And right now, a big thing going on in the world, and I'm not sure when you're going to be listening to this, but as you can't get things because of COVID, is what everyone says. Oh, COVID, production lines, and this is not being produced. And that's, COVID happens here, and then it slows that down, and then it slows this down. And here in the U.S., we're coming out of, the lockdowns. And there are very few states, I think, anymore that even have lockdowns. And then some parts of the world are, from what I hear, like Canada and Australia, are in big time lockdown. But it means something. It means something to people in those particular, economies and nationalities and environments and everything else. But back to where I started the story. I'm sitting in my office right now, and the rugs for my home office are not going to be here for several months. And what does that mean? And then I'm told, well, they're coming from, they were all hand woven and or machine woven, or like not by mechanical machine, but by hand machine in Nepal. So what does that mean that I don't have them yet? And what does it mean? For example, it took me 4 months to get other furniture in here. What does it mean that my couches will not be here for till like October or something? And then I go to, well, I have a lot of sound reverberation in this room because my office is 1,000 square feet at home and tile floor and glass and everything. So what does the reverberation mean? Does it mean my sound quality is not as good? And these are all things that I go through very mildly in my mind. I even tested my microphone today. And what does it mean? Some people listening might not even notice. Some, that are audiophiles might notice. And the reality is that everyone makes their own meaning of things. Look at your own life. And let's say that I gave you $100,000. What does that mean? What does it mean if you saw me give someone $100,000 and you didn't get $100,000? What does that mean? What does it mean that you feel really good today? What does it mean that you feel really bad today? What does it mean to you that in the United States, which is where I live, that today is Memorial Day? Let's say you live in New Zealand. It might not mean anything. Or it might mean that, the U.S. markets are closed and I buy dollars or I buy U.S. stocks or whatever, so it means I can't trade today. Or it might mean nothing at all. What I want you to look at and just absorb right now, everything in your life, now reminding you it's brain-based, but your brain gives meaning to everything. And what most of us do many times is we catastrophize and we give something a bad meaning, an unproductive meaning. Many times what we do as well, and I see this a lot, and I've done it, I don't do it anymore, but I've done it in my past, is we make something mean something about our value, our own value. It just popped in my mind. I don't know why this example popped into my mind, but as a kid, don't judge, I used to go to livestock shows. I grew up on a ranch, on a farm, and I competed with things that I did at a national level. And I remember this one kid, and a lot of us that were kind of working the upper echelons of what we were doing, we kind of knew each other from different parts of the country. And we didn't have internet back then in the 80s and all that. So when we'd come together at livestock shows, we'd see each other maybe 2-3 times a year. And there was this one kid that was he was in the echelon of level that we were working at from Nebraska. But he was never very friendly. And I remember talking to someone and I said, yeah, that kid Brent, he's not a very nice kid. And somebody said, oh, you mean Brent so-and-so? And I said, yeah. And they said, no, a lot of people think that he's unfriendly, but he's that painfully shy. So notice what I was doing. I was putting meaning on it that, he must not be a nice kid, when somebody else who knew him said, no, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that he's painfully shy and it's really hard for him to talk to people. And in that moment, I changed my meaning because my meaning was just immature, thinking, oh, he's a kid who looks down on other kids, which was, from my past and all the meanings that I gave things, to, oh, okay, he must be a nice guy, but it's hard for him to talk to people. And my meaning went from judgment of the kid to compassion for the kid. Why? Because my meaning changed when I gathered more information. And really what I want you to do, in this episode, seriously, like I just alluded to, look, and let's slow down here. Look at things that happen in your life and look at the meaning that you give to things. But while you're doing that, I want to back up here. Something that I just said a couple of minutes ago is many times people they'll make something mean something, but what they'll do is they'll make that meaning about their own value. Meaning, I must not be part of the group, or I must not be this, I must not be that. And we're making meaning, but we're making the meaning mean something about our value as a human being. Now consider that and look at that for a moment. I want you to think about when you don't feel good enough, when you feel like you don't hit the mark, when you're below someone else, when you're behind someone else. And then what I want you to look at, okay, so the dogs just started barking upstairs and I did take a little break. So what does that mean? It means to me that I stop because I want to, deliver some amount of professionalism. But what I was talking about, these things that you think about yourself and the things that are not positive, what does it mean? And what meaning are you putting on your value? And the meaning, and I see it over and over and over again, the meaning that a lot of people put on their value is, I'm not good enough. Ponder that. So think about when you don't feel good enough. And guys, I'm you've heard me say before, for those of you that have listened any amount of time, and as I've said before also, if you're kind of new here, go back to the beginning. Seriously, go back to the beginning and start from there. But when you have this thought, I'm not good enough, what does it mean? When I look at my own life, there are things that I'm good at. There are things that I'm really good at. Things that I have evidence and I have observation, I have feedback. For example, when it comes to coaching and my transformational programs, I'm not really good at it. From what I hear from people that have been to every program, out there, I'm one of the best there is at it. And what does it mean to me? What that means, some people would get arrogant about that. What it simply means to me is that I'm living my dharma. This is why I'm on the planet. And that evidence tells me that I'm doing what I need to be doing with my life. But go back here, as I was saying, I grew up poor. And I remember when I went to college, I went to a private school and a good school, and a lot of my friends were rich. My roommate for 2 years drove a brand new Mercedes-Benz that he got for Christmas as a college kid. And in some way, I felt inferior to a lot of these people because I didn't have that. I drove an old beat-up pickup truck. I didn't have what they had. And they were really good people, and they were friends. And I look back and I'm like, it didn't mean anything that they had more money than me or more opportunity than me. None of that meant anything. When I look at where I am in life now, I'm ahead of a lot of these people, even financially, pretty much more than most of them that I still know. But I made value of meaning about myself relative to other people. And the truth is this, you cannot value what you do or who you are based upon anyone or anything else on the planet. You can't. That's a trap because, see, that's an external validation. And when that validation changes, let's say you feel good about yourself, and that's the meaning that you're giving something. When you feel good about yourself, because of something external. When that external thing changes, so does how you feel about yourself, because the value that you placed upon yourself has changed based upon something external in your life. I really don't want to go to what positive things mean. I could, but so many of us focus on what the negative things mean. I've seen people that are really tall, and that means they stand out, but they don't want to stand out. People that are really, short, that means something. I must be this, I must be that, I must be inferior because I'm not tall. I have a big nose, that means something. I've got a big butt, that means something. It means I'm dateable, I'm not dateable, I'm desirable, I'm not desirable. I've got a lot of money, that means XYZ. I don't have a lot of money, that means XYZ. But when I say the negative, many times when things don't work in life as we expect them to work, we put a negative meaning on that. Oh, I must not have been good enough to get that job. I must not have been good enough for this or for that. I've told this story before. I remember many years ago, it was 1992, and I was working at the Carter Presidential Center. It's the executive offices of Jimmy Carter. And it's all nonpartisan. It's all humanitarian work. When I was there, I think he won the Nobel Peace Prize that year. And I worked in the executive offices. So I saw him, etc. I was in the part that was not open to the public. And there was a job that I applied for internally, which was the assistant to his chief of staff. And I really, really wanted that job. And I was telling a friend of mine, and he was my age, very wise guy. And he said, Jim, if you get that job, it's great. And he goes, if you don't get that job, it's also great. I'm like, Doug, what do you mean? And he goes, if you get the job, it's meant for you. And if you don't get the job, then it's not meant for you and there's something better for you. And I didn't get the job. And I didn't get it because, actually, his chief of staff wanted to hire me, but he couldn't because of some hiring guidelines. But I didn't get the job. Now, had I gotten the job, I like to achieve. I like to create, so to speak. I like to, I just enjoy making things happen in life. I probably would be working in politics today as even maybe Carter's right-hand man. He's still active in the world today. Or right-hand person, let me put it that way. But you know what? I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today because something always leads to something. I would not be doing what I'm doing today had I gotten that job, because I wouldn't have left the Carter Presidential Center to get on a different path, which was in the personal development field, which led somewhere, which led somewhere, which led somewhere, which led somewhere, which brings me to today. So I want you to look at things that aren't happening in your life in the way that you want them to. What does that mean? And be careful, because the pitfall is many times people make that mean something about their inadequacy. And then where they go to is, I'm not good enough. And they create a story and a belief out of, I'm not good enough. And then what they do is they give that meaning and they don't show up in life. Why? Because I'm not good enough. I'm not one of those people. I can't do it. And none of that's true. It's all based upon the meaning that we give something. I've met a lot of people in my life. I've coached a lot of very high-end, very wealthy people. I've worked with European royalty. CEOs, billionaires, movie stars, the whole gamut of life I've worked with. And so many people will look at other people and put them above them socially because they have more money or more social status, which, by the way, people clamor for social status more than anything. It's kind of hardwired in the brain as a survival mechanism. But we look at other people and then we put them above us. And then and I've done it. I don't do it anymore. And then what many of us do is we make meaning that we're not good enough. But here's the thing that I started this conversational loop with. Once we believe we're not good enough, we operate from that interpretation of life and that meaning that we're not good enough. And we create that paradigm that we live with for a lifetime. And the reality is this, is you're as good, whoever or wherever you are on the planet, you are as good as everyone else on the planet, You're just here living your own experience. You're here living, your karma. You're here hopefully living, which many of us don't, your dharma, which means your life purpose, the reason that you're here to contribute to the planet and to your own evolution and your own growth. But what we do is we put so much meaning on ourselves based upon external validation or external comparison that we're making interpretations about ourselves, and then we put negative meanings on that, and then we trap ourselves for a lifetime. So what I want you to be careful with, seriously, I know that this is a bit of a slippery episode. Hopefully you're giving some meaning to what I'm saying, and I say it's a slippery episode because, I wish I could give you a concrete, here's step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, checklist, to be able to live your life by. But what I've recognized over the years and come to know is, and I'm working on this, I'm just transparent with you guys. I'm not perfect. No one is, and I'm learning my lessons, is to be happy all the time. To be, no matter what's going on in your life. Now, you may or may not know, I had a stroke and heart failure in 2020. What I've not alluded to a lot of on this podcast is it was really, I feel the interpretations and meanings that I'm making in my life is that I'm pretty much back to air quote normal and actually very healthy. And I tell you, I had a really physically rough year last year. The healing process, because I'd never been sick in my life prior to last year, not even a prescription since 1992. Zero sickness, none. And I had to learn how to heal, not cerebrally and not analytically, but I had to learn how to heal practically, to use my mind to heal. And I went through a lot of pain, a whole lot of physical pain, which I can manage somewhat with self-hypnosis. I went through a whole lot of uncertainty because I honestly, last summer, June of 2020, thereabouts, I'm thinking back June, I honestly thought that it was my time to leave the planet. And I wasn't forecasting it. I wasn't asking for it. But I'm like, maybe I've done my job. There's something that I did last year that was very significant. Maybe that was my work, and maybe it's time for me to go home. And I'm okay with that. And I realized that I made that meaning based upon how bad. There were some days that I really felt like, if I went home today, hallelujah, because I'm not in pain today. And there were all kind of discomforts and physical sensations and all these things happening as a result of my heart acting up and my brain acting up. The two most vital organs in the body, so to speak. And both of them in 1 year. And one day I was showering and I just didn't really feel well. And I said to myself, what does this mean? And what meaning am I making of this? Am I catastrophizing it, meaning that, I've got, 1 foot in the grave and 1 foot on the banana peel? What does this mean? And let that soak in as you're listening. What does it mean in your own life? That somebody abandoned you, somebody had an affair, somebody left you, somebody came into your life, somebody cheated on you, somebody betrayed you, you got fired, all these kind of things. What do they mean? And even when we put negative meanings on them, they only mean something in that moment. Because as I look back now, I remember that day in the shower that I didn't feel well. And I remember, I can even tell you where I was, and I was driving when I'm like, maybe it's time for me to leave the planet. I can tell you where I was, the meaning that I was making. And what I want to share here is that the meaning that I was making then is not the same meaning that I'm making now. Why? Because in any given moment, I'm making something mean something. And here's a big takeaway for you. Here's where we have to be careful, because you better be careful. I'm telling you that like a big brother. You are you better be careful. I'm not waving my finger or anything at you, but you better be careful what things you make things mean, because that's going to cause more pain for you and more trial, or it's going to cause more healing for you on the opposite end, and more opening up and more joy in your life and more peace of mind and more prosperity in your life. What a lot of people do, let's simplify this, because a lot of you will be able to relate to this. And even this past year, the thing about life is once you think you have a handle on something, there's a whole nother level to it. And you're like, oh, I get it. And then a year later, you're like, ooh, no, I didn't get it. And I'm learning a lot more now. Well, life's just a learning progress if we choose it to be. It's just an opportunity to learn every single day. And where I was going with that is worry. Is that most of us worry about things, and I know you've heard this before, is that we worry about things that we can't fix or we have no influence over. And I've said this for a lot of years in this podcast, but something I want to share is worry is insecure thinking. Worry is saying, I'm giving away all of my power as a human being. I'm choosing not to exercise my will of mind, my life force. I'm choosing not to exercise and command my will. I'm choosing not to exercise my command of my body through my thoughts. And then we give all that power away. Why? Because we worry, and that's why I say that worry is insecure thinking. Because we're insecure. We just turn all of our power over as saying, you know what? Oops, I lost my job. Oh, let me boo-hoo. There's nothing I can do about it. Or where a lot of people go this day and age is their health and wellness. They're 75 pounds, 100 pounds overweight. Something happens. They go to the hospital and they worry and they worry and they worry. And I remember very vividly, and I wish you could see into my brain so I could prove to you that I'm telling you the truth. When I was in the hospital the first time, it was for heart failure. I had two cardiologists. One was very positive. One's like, and he was the senior cardiologist. He said, you know what? He goes, I'm going to say that you probably have a 70% chance of full recovery. Well, that still means limitation by their definition of it. And today, I'm more recovered cardiovascularly than most people, according to my neurologist and other cardiology work that I had done when I was in the hospital for a stroke. But what we do is so many people in our culture is when they're sick and the doctor says, hey, XYZ is wrong with you, they worry and they worry and they worry and they worry and they worry. And then what they do is because they're worrying, they're giving things meaning. Oh, this must mean that it's time to leave the planet. This must mean what people say, I'm going to die. This must mean, oh, all this bad thing number one, bad thing number two, bad thing number three. Notice, it's nothing more than thought, because nothing has any meaning except the meaning that you give it. So, when I was in the hospital, one cardiologist was extremely, positive. One was negative, very negative. I mean, like she went to the opposite end, negative. Like, you're at 32% heart function or whatever, blah, blah. It could stay there. And she kind of said it, it might not go up and all this stuff like that. And literally, I was metaphorically, I had my fingers in my ears going, la, 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 I can't hear you, I can't hear you, I can't hear you, la, 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 I can't hear you. Because I wasn't going to absorb what she was saying to me. Because I knew in that moment that I was going to heal. I knew it. And today I look back and I'm like, I've almost forgotten how tough it was, part of that healing process, because I knew I was going to heal, because the meaning I was putting on it, I had one meaning. And the meaning was this: mind over body. This is my body, and I can use my mind to heal my body. And I did. And I am still. But for the most part, I did. But takeaway here, meaning. What meaning do you give things in your life? So what I'm requesting you do is look at things in your life right now that are not as you want them to be. What I want you to notice is the relationship between how something not being what you want it to be and the meaning you're giving it, and how most likely the meaning you're giving it is keeping it what you don't want it to be. Consider that. Look at something in your life and it's not the way you want it. And then notice the meaning that you're giving that, and notice that the meaning that you're giving that is keeping it exactly where you don't want it to be, because that's the meaning you're giving it, because that's where your attention is. Which you've heard me say before, you are where your attention is, and whatever you're placing meaning on is where your attention is. And if you're not getting the outcomes that you want, you have to change the meaning by reinterpreting and then moving your intention. Okay, what I don't know is what meaning you have made of this episode. I mean, you could be like, holy cow, this is mind-blowing. You could be like, no thanks. You could be like, what did he just say? You could be like, you could make some meaning like, wow, I pulled something out of it that can transform my life. I don't know. Because you're the one making meaning of me visiting with you right now. And the question is what meaning are you going to make out of the statement that you make everything mean something? And then look at what are those meanings, and then do those meanings serve you? Until this last year, I never considered myself an expert at adversity. Other speakers talk about it, stuff like that. For example, I don't talk about leadership because I'm not a leadership expert. But adversity, people, don't talk. I mean, I don't. I didn't talk about adversity, so to speak, because I didn't really have any real encounter with adversity, even though I've had a lot of things happen in my life that might be adverse. Until this past year, and I'm like, holy cow, that's not adversity, leaving the planet thereabouts twice, then what is? And I look back now at the meanings I was giving in the moment, and for the most part, I kept most of those meanings very positive. And I look now, and as I said, none of the meanings I gave back then really mean anything now, which shows me how fluid our meaning is. So take that with you, and take my life, the examples that I've given you, and look at your own life, and look at the meanings that you're giving everything, and then recognize this one thing before we go. You are the creator of the meaning, which means you can recreate the meaning, just like when I didn't get the job at the Carter Center. I mentioned I had to recreate a meaning. The meaning was it wasn't a job for me. So look at all the things in your life that are not where you want them to be. You created that. What meaning have you put on it? What interpretations have you put on it? What or where is your attention? And now, what are new meanings that you can give those things? If you would please, and you got value today in this episode, please share, because the meaning to me is that I can help more people. And I'm very grateful for that. Very seriously. Thank you, so much for listening. And I'll catch you on another episode. Bye-bye. If you're serious about transforming your life from the inside out, I have a free training that you're going to want to listen to. And it's helped tens of thousands of people all around the globe. The thing is, all of my students start here because when you learn to change your thinking, you'll change your life. Because as you already know, life happens from the inside out. The training is called Discover How to Eliminate Fear and Negativity in an Instant. So go to jimfortin.com/eliminate fear and start learning how to transform your life at a deeper level from the inside out.
Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. If you found value, they will too. so please share via your social media channels. Also, if you have questions, I'm here to assist. You can email me questions to support@jimfortin.com, and I may even use your question for a future podcast episode. Also, if you want transformational content like this daily, connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram name is I am Jim Fortin. Finally, I do have a personal request. I believe that we're all here to help others and to grow and evolve ourselves. Together, you and I, let's help more people. If you would please leave a review on iTunes, and a good one by the way. I'd be grateful, and through your assistance together, we can transform more lives. Thanks for listening.